The secrets of Bugenhagen. What's this old man who potentially does or does not have legs have in store for us? I know, I mean, just theorizing right there. Does he just levitate on a medicine ball? Why does he specifically do that? Do you think like Bugenhagen just has rock solid abs? Like he's just constantly doing like, what is it, Kegels? Like, in his old age, he's just got like the hardest old man arse in the universe? Or does he just do it for clout? It's like, yo, I can levitate, yo. But does he have legs? Who knows? Been in communication with them. Delta Sin, or on Twitter, Delta Zach Lives. We've been sort of exchanging a few ideas back and forth, me specifically with my Kabbalistic lore, which if you guys have seen, I don't want to do too much summary here, but my main theory that we are following a 5 worlds concept. There's the 4 worlds in the Kabbalah, but there's a 5th because the 5th is Adam Kadmon, which means original concept, and the other 4 fit perfectly with the descriptions of what we've seen. Asaya, this is a new concept, it's a remake, it's close to the original Adam Kadmon line, and in this one, a singular angel rules. They are the only one with awareness, just like Sephiroth. You then jump up to Yet Zero, which is the world of creation. That's the edge of creation, and in this world, angels know themselves much better, and this is where we've seen Sephiroth call himself Ori Sephiroth. Then following that, the Yet Zero level explodes in a big cosmic explosion called the Shevaret Hakalim, and Nitzazuts, which are sparks of light, fall down into the lower world, and they are able to not just change the world physically in its physical manifestation, we've seen really good changes like actual layout, but also brings life to broken vessels and self-aware creations. Hence Zack being alive again, Biggs waking up when a spark goes into him. I think it's the other way around. Bariah and Yet Zero, for some reason the layout is different here in the 4 worlds. I'll show you here. Adam, no, we want Atziluth. Atziluth is after the first emanation. Yeah, there's no self-awareness on anyone but the singular angel, Shekinah, which is a very feminine angel that wanders the world. A lost bride stripped from Godhead. It's a very dark story, and it matches the parallels of Sephiroth, but no self-awareness, just like our crew, they have none. Edge of creation, first sense of awareness comes in. That's what we've seen with Cloud and Tifa, you know, they get their memories. Nanaki seeing the canyon, I mean, I feel like they all saw each other's memories, because that's what to Red and was like, yo, what did we just see? And it was like, the outcome if we fell here today. The first beginnings of self-awareness. Then you go into Yet Zero. This is the rebirth level, much more awareness, and this is where the lights tinkle down. Oh yeah, and this one's represented with stars, and Yet Zero is represented with the flowering of the soul. This is where the chakras and sort of self-awareness and emotions, that the Kabbalists describe like flowers that change based on emotions and spiritual qualities. And this is what we saw in the Age of Creation, a big flower. And then finally Asaya, and this is where everything's going to throw down big time. This level here, guys, is where angels of destruction rule. They are pernicious angels that operate, and when the Kabbalah said love in wickedness and fear in corruption, I did not realize, even when I did that theory, how succinctly it fits up with the Rebirth trailer. By the way, can you hear the Borks walking in the background? They're going off. I think a fucking cow just ran through and they're going crazy. And to see in the Rebirth trailer, Sephiroth saying it could transform and take shape of those you fear, those you love. How succinctly that is showed, with it immediately cutting to Tifa walking up the stairs, Sephiroth slashing her and saying to Cloud, I killed her, so who is she? Fear in corruption, corruption of memories, love in wickedness, playing on the love between Tifa and Cloud. That's Sephiroth's main play in OG, in the latter section, and that's continuing. But then even when I was thinking about this angel, subversive angels, angels of destruction, is it not the case that Jenova is the OG fallen angel? I mean, Jenova Dull with these wings, and the fact that whether it's S cell or G cell, the white wing and the black wing, they are manifestations of Jenova cells, right? So it's curious that you could see Sephiroth as the angel here, you can also see Jenova as the angel. Basically, this is the world format of 7 Remake. I don't know how much sense this makes to you guys, if any of you have seen it, but what this means is you've got 5 worlds, 5 core worlds, and in each of these worlds, you have different configuration of Sephiroths. So you essentially, the Sephiroths are 10, but all of the 5 worlds are linked by the higher transcendental realm, the Keter, which is the top, which is the source. So in that sense, you could see that all the 5 worlds are connected by the one supreme top, and it's the other 9 that emanate from the 5. And the Kabbalah goes into a lot of details on how the Sephiroth configuration shows up in these 5 different worlds. Sometimes they're simply stacked on top of each other in ascending descending order. Sometimes the configuration is in chaos. There was another part of the theory where I said that in some of these realms, some of the Sephiroths are broken, and specifically broken between these 2 worlds, Bariah and Yetzirah, the Edge of Creation and the Formation world. Final Fantasy 7 Remake, Edge of Creation, and Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth. And that what happens between these 2 worlds is a shattering of 6 of the Sephiroths, and the Harbinger flashes to us 6 times, guys. 6! Exactly. The Harbinger pulses, and that's when our crew gets a memory. That blew my mind. And then to see that the 7th Sephiroth of Malkuth, the Kingdom Sephiroth, which is the material world, Malkuth is related to the 49 days of the Omer, the Jewish marathon. That's why I'm convinced we have Marco with tattoo 49 on him. I'm telling you guys, I mean, it can be a few other things. A few other possibilities is that Soldier floor 49 is where Zack starts. Crisis Core is actually on floor 49. 49 also in the Tibetan Book of the Dead is the amount of times after you die that you spend in purgatory, reliving your life regrets, anything that you've done wrong, all of the things that you left undone. And that's also possible what the remake is. It's kind of a purgatory. I don't know if you noticed it when you played the remake, guys, but did you notice the theme that the characters were kind of a little bit more aware of their regrets or their mistakes from the past? Like you had obviously Aerith with her love with Cloud, don't fall in love with me, but then also what she says in Maiden Who Travels Through the Planet is that she would love to be able to go back and spend more time with Cloud. So them going to the Honeybee Inn and going on a date, red dress Aerith, it does feel like she's getting to relive a regret she had. You had Kate Sith, Reeve running to the plate as it collapsed, falling on his knees. Reeve being much more determined to try to stop it. That was his regret. Then you have what was Barrett's, that he never got to expose President Shinra. And in this, it's like they get close. It's like Kate Sith didn't fully get to stop the play. It's like Barrett, he almost managed to get President Shinra to go on TV and announce that they were fucking things up until Sephiroth comes and stabs him. And then you specifically have it with Tifa. She always regretted that she left Cloud in OG, and this time her running back just in time to grab Cloddy Boy before he falls. That's also what 49 could be. Reliving out your regrets. But guys, I want you to just hold on to that main formula that you have 5 worlds emanating out 9 Sephiroths, because again, the source connects all of them. So anyway, I started speaking to Delta Sin because they found a really cool Reddit page, or they're the ones who made it, I'm not sure which. Here I was riffing about these 5 worlds, and they kind of pointed out that not only does the number 5 get used heavily in Gnosticism, and it basically references the doorway to the spiritual world, 5. Also, that is very succinct with Loveless. See, Loveless Act 5 is the missing chapter, and Genesis only pens in his version after he goes into the life stream. So once he goes into the life stream, or when he goes into Minerva's Grove, that's when he gets Act 5, doorway to the spiritual world. But what Delta Sin kind of showed me was this chart here, guys. So this is pretty hard to explain, but if you go through 7 Remake, there's a lot of inconsistencies, even in just very small subtle areas. You obviously get Cloud sort of looking at things suspiciously, things are being overwritten, memories are coming and going. I do think that's what the elusiveness of the cats, or the fucking cats in 7 Remake, you get to distract Good Kitty, and you see him walking about places, which cats in dream interpretation. They're a symbolic animal. It basically means when you're being led astray. And this theme, when you go back to the 7 Remake, happens a lot, even in President Shinra's office. Switching of where the doorway is. So the door is on one side to the helipad, and then it gets swapped. Now, of course, a lot of people turn around and go, no, that's just a design fuck up. That's just Square Enix like screwing up the development and their build. It's an accident. It's a mistake. Which is the exact same thing people have said about the wooden cross in the church. You know, sometimes the wooden cross is there on Zack's line, and then you go to another one and it's not there. And then in Crisis Core, it is also switched between certain assets. Oh, they were just fucking up there as well. The other one is with the reactor stickers on Midgar. Now, I don't believe that Square Enix is just making constant development errors. And it's very clear with the President Shinra one, because when they walk in and Tifa and Cloud and Barrett, they're more focused on other stuff that's going on. You weirdly have Aerith and Red walking around the room. I think you have Aerith walking up to where the door was supposed to be, and they're looking around in confusion. And if you just watch back and you keep it in your mind, you're like, they're showing us that the world is getting changed. And that's obviously when Cloud went through the portal and he was hovering over Midgar. Midgar has different stickers. Well, the extent to what things have changed, guys, could be even more significant. So I think as in the Rebirth, we're walking away from the city, you actually get where the north, south, east and west points of Midgar are, because obviously you've got the main Shinra Tower, where that face is ends up getting switched and it doesn't make sense. And basically what happens is we've got this little squiggle here. I think this comes from the Ultimania as to where Cloud and the gang went when they were on the Midgar highway scene. So when they're zooming on the bikes and we're fucking up big old motorball and shit, and specifically how we left Midgar, this presents it as we were at Reactor 5. So when the crew entered the portal, Destiny's portal, there's a very strong likelihood they entered in at Sector 5, which again, 5 being the doorway to the spiritual world, and the 5 worlds of the Kabbalah, which again, Nexus ways concentric circles into the spiritual world. They could be using this 5 to demonstrate to us for any theory crafters and tinfoil hat wearing nutters like us, like me and you and I, to catch on to. And the reason why that is then crazy is because when we see the Rebirth trailer, what does it say? It says Sector 2. The news report says Sector 0, 1 and 2 were the ones that got tornadoed, which essentially means that Sector 2 is the one up here. Midgar has been flipped. It's totally out of sync. And it kind of makes sense, obviously going into Rebirth world. But what it mostly leads to is that 5, just like water, people have even found things like wherever the whispers show up, there's also like puddles of water around, like the alleyway. That's like a strip of water, and then they obviously harass around Aerith. Square Enix do pay a lot of attention to detail, especially with even the flower symbology, the purple and the yellow where water is, and now even potentially this number 5, all being demonstrating to us, and say the white door as well. Like, it's always the case in Advent Children, we go through a white doorway, and when we see in Cloud Smiles, Zack and Aerith leave, the little nod, they head back through a white doorway. So why in Rebirth have we just seen Zack come back, see a bunch of souls bugging the fuck out with the white doorway behind him? Square Enix pay attention to this kind of stuff. And I get frustrated when I riff these points, guys, because you know what I even had earlier on one of my videos when I was talking about the purple flower and how that symbolizes corruption to us? One person actually said, and not to call you out, maybe you just see it that way, but they said, nah, purple's being used a lot now. You see it in a lot of movies and animes and games because it's celebrating the Queen of England who died like 4 years ago. Or how long ago did she die? It wasn't even that long ago. Yeah, no, she died last year. What have I chatting about? She died 1 year ago. Oh, wow, actually, it's 3 days until the anniversary of her death. So that makes even less sense. This person's like, nah, purple's being used because when she died or something, she was commemorating with the colour purple, or that was the last outfit she wore. FF7 Remake has been out for years! People get so skeptical about these sort of symbolic and design flirtatious choices that Square Enix weave into 7, and they just play it off as the dumbest things. No, that's just a design mistake. That line was just like a little plot hole. You know, Aerith having memories. Oh, that's a plot hole. How many articles are coming out of that? Oh, Square Enix have fucked up. They've made a plot hole. No, they haven't made a plot hole. It's so limited in thinking, and I think that people have this not only about Sephiroth, I think they have it about 7 as a whole. I think people have it about 7 Rebirth. People saying, oh, you know, all the crew are now dead. We've just seen it in Rebirth, like we've seen Tifa and Barrett. We've just seen them dead on the news, and what that means is that timeline is now closed off, and we're now on this one, and this is where it's going to be like for like, because they've said there's no more whispers, and that the game is going to follow the beats of 7, so it's like for like going forward now. You people are crazy. Well, actually, you're not crazy. You're sane, and that's the problem. You're a sane human being trying to look at 7 and its compilation and what the fuck is happening in the remake in a sane way. And that's insane! Because FF7 isn't sane. It's never been sane. But anyway, that aside, guys, hold that in mind, that's just a little bit of extra supporting material for 5 being a very significant number. Let me go back to my notes. Delta Sin, I saw on their Twitter, old Bugie boy. I'm going to give you guys in the chat a moment to look at that and tell me where you think the secret is. Let me know when you see it. I'll give you a hint. Right here is the secrets of the Kabbalah in 2 places that completely support and substantiate and back up, I think, again, I could be shoehorning and I could be wrong, but it was nice to see in this latest theory that a lot of people are like, yo, dude, actually that makes a lot of sense. I came in this pretty cynical, but the idea that Nomura and Katase, especially with the structure of OG7, are intentionally using the Kabbalah in how they're formatting 7 Remake. It's cool to see. And this is why we don't have timelines. We have concentric circles of spirituality and different planes of spiritual existence and awareness, and also formations of the Sephiroths. The design, yes, my friend. I know, the weird blue lines over the planet. See, I did look at those. It wasn't in those. The design on his back. That's it, Kyrix. The design on his back. This is what Delta Sin broke down. Now what you see right there, in that circular pattern on his back, is a whole series of stars. Okay? A bunch of stars. You see the big one in the center. And as Delta Sin points out here, and you can see it much clearer, that there are basically 5 core patterns. You've got the central one, and then you have 5 little stars around the center. And then from those 5, branch out 9. 9, my friends. Now, bear in mind what I just said. There's 5 worlds in the Kabbalah, all with a configuration of 10 Sephiroths, but one of those 10 is the center, the Keter, the center here, of which you will often see the Keter represented as a big star, the source of all divinity, and that from the Keter branch out 9 others. 9 other Sephiroths. 6 of which partially shatter, 1 that completely shatters, Sephiroth breaking the world in that big kaboom. It fits! It fits so succinctly. And I was like, oh boy, oh boy. So let me dive a little bit deeper, because that means that there's 45 stars. I was like, okay, does that mean something? Does it mean something? Well, 45, guys, just so happens to be the name of God in the Kabbalah. Remember what I said Adam Kadmon is one that is often excluded from Transcendence for various reasons. But here we go. The 45-letter name of God is connected to the 72-letter name. The difference is the intensity of the revelation. The Zohar says that the 72-letter name comes from the forehead of Adam Kadmon, primordial man, which is the dimension which includes everything that existed before creation and everything that will exist until the end of time. The 7 seconds until the end, Nomura came out and told us that actually, when Sephiroth says that to Cloud at the edge of creation, that is literally 7 seconds before all of infinite time and space is going to end. It's the end of the universe at that point. 7 seconds after that, the world is done. Now think about that. I mean, just on that level alone, why? Why would the edge of creation, like when we still see stars and planets, because that doesn't line up with our cosmological fate. Our actual fate is for planets to explode, stars to run out of juice, and then to collapse into black holes. And we will actually spend trillions of years in darkness before the world contracts back down into infinite nothingness, or an infinite point in time. And then the theory is that we're going to have other Big Bangs. We've had multiple Big Bangs. So there will be trillions of years where the world is just dark. Why is it that in this 7 seconds, when there's still stars in the sky, the universe is going to end? Makes me wonder, what's going on there? We do know that Sephiroth has a goal that is much higher than OG FF7, because he just wanted to take over the planet. Now he did have the goal, but we saw this more in Advent Children, which was to sail the cosmos, and there's a lot to say. And this is kind of where you even start including like Dissidia or World of Final Fantasy or Final Fantasy XIV, which is the multiverse theory, that actually there is like A worlds and B worlds and like much larger cosmic life stream that is all interconnected. And that's how, you know, in the A worlds and World of Final Fantasy, you get the heroes from the worlds, and this is how the summons are shared between them. And then you got the outer worlds of B worlds, or say Kingdom Hearts. And then basically there's a great cosmic life streaming connection there. And you could say Sephiroth, if they are weaving it this way, being in Kingdom Hearts, in Dissidia, that basically he wants to infect the cosmos life stream. It's the very cosmos itself. And I am not going to talk on this too much. I'm going to leave that until my Sephiroth video, but there's a lot of supporting evidence to say that he not only realizes the planetary fate that planets create, but also the universe as a whole, and he's actually trying to run it backwards to the annihilation of existence itself, because again, that is our fate. We'll just become black holes and die into nothing. Essentially, I think they call it the Great Darkness or something, or the Great Death of the universe. Sephiroth's main goal is to always endure. And in that sense, we as humans and we as life forms, we are confined to death. And this is where you have a fucking existential crisis. If any of you are watching this and you're smoking weed, you may want to turn around now, because it's going to get depressing. But that's our fate, man. You ever felt existential despair? You ever thought that this is all where this is going? And just the dread of it? I mean, that's the thing. You can either go one way in that direction, or you can go in towards like the Aerith approach of things, which is, damn, life is short, life is finite. And because it's finite, that's why it's so precious. That's why it's so valuable. It's one of those things that can either, put you in a hole of depression, or give you like more zest for life and to make the most of it. In Sephiroth's case, he ain't got no zest. He ain't no zesty boy. He does not want that outcome. And if he wants to try to stop that outcome, is he doing it just for himself? Is he doing it for more than himself? Souls, humanity, Cloud won't have you end. Was he speaking to just Cloud? Was he speaking to what Cloud represents as well? Humanity as a whole. Is it all selfish? Or does he have some dark humanitarianism? Anyway, we'll talk about that another time. The main point being is that in the Kabbalah, the name Ma, what up Ma, is covered by the forehead, and therefore its revelation is limited and dimmed compared to the name Av. So Ma isn't the full extent of God. It's a limited and dimmed version. Now, does that not kind of make sense to all of the deities that we see in 7? Obviously Minerva, she's not fully like God. Genova, you could say, is almost godlike, but a fallen angel. Sephiroth, a false god. So the name Ma being what is describing the play of trying to become God that we're seeing in 7 makes a lot of sense. And that's what specifically relates to the name of 45, because the name Ma is composed of 45 letters and its primary hidden value is Aleph. Aleph, as we spoke in our class, is a medium between the infinite and the finite levels of existence, the exact bridge that Sephiroth is trying to breach, if you will. And the higher Yud reaches up the infinite source, while the lower Yud draws down infinite light into the finite world. And again, part of that drawing down from the infinite into the finite, the edge of creation into rebirth, is done through the Nitzazots, the descending sparks of light. 7, I've got your number. Nomura, your time is up. You're done. You're basic. I thought you could hide it from me. I mean, 7 Remake has been out a while, and this has eluded me the whole way. I love this, man. This is such a juicy weave if this is what they're doing. But while the Neymar is called a new name, because it is the name, it's for the sake of post-existence and ultimately achieving the Tikkun. So the Tikkun, guys, this is why it'd be even juicier for Bugenhagen to have this on his back, because Bugenhagen is the first one that kind of teases us up to, the world is dying. We are polluting and destroying, and eventually the world is going to crumble. And you see it in OG Bugenhagen's thing, the world sort of crumbles. I think when we go to the 7 Remake Bugenhagen, when Rebirth, is he going to be aware, or is he going to give us more than just a basic explanation of the life stream? I hope so. A far juicier, richer, more succulent sort of world lore breakdown for us to nosh our teeth into. And I think he will. But Tikkun, like I said in my big theory video, Tohu is the world of corruption. It's the fucked up world. It's the impure world. It's the one that the Clipoth, which again I think Sephiroth has created a Clipoth, and that's what Zack's in. And you've got Tikkun, which is the world of fixing. Aerith has put us into Tikkun. It is a world that is to repair the damage that has been done, which aligns with what Aerith was telling us. Lunch on that for a bit, guys. The center is the Keter, the 5 worlds with the 9 branching Sephiroths emanating out. 45, the letter of the concealed god. Clipoth is used in Persona 5 Royal. Yes, it is, and it is also used in Devil May Cry. Spiritual concentric circle that has been corrupted, and Tohu means world of chaos, and I'll show it with like tornadoes and like souls, like suffering. It's also very cool that in the Clipoth, you still also have a Sephiroth. That's what's integral. Even of the 5 worlds, if one of the worlds turns into a Clipoth, it's still branched out as the Sephiroths, but instead of like understanding and compassion and severity and wisdom, they actually changed the Clipoth configuration into names of demons. I kind of just like this because I'm an Evangelion fan now, and obviously Adam Cadman being one of the worlds, but it basically changes to Lilith, so like Adam and Lilith, Samael, Baal, Belphegor, Asmodeus, Astaroth, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Satan, Nahemoth. I've never heard of Nahemoth, but that's what a Clipoth looks like. It keeps the same Sephiroth configuration, the 10 or the 9 emanating out of the singular point. The one that's the top of the point, instead of being God or Ma, becomes Satan. There, but anyway, let's move on to the second secret. So I was like, damn, Bugenhagen, your cloak, major support of the world format that I've been viewing, and also just even the idea of concentric circles. I know this was in FF7 OG, but that's what I think the Kabbalah has been a part of it. But even the observatorium, just the way it moves, you've got like the big circles, right? And the planets sort of move around them, and you see some of these circles like overlapping, they're within one another. This fits with the Kabbalistic interpretation of these worlds. They're not separate, they're the same. You can be in multiple worlds. Somebody also found, well, Delta Sin also kind of looked at the pattern on Minerva's shield in Crisis Core and said that, you know, there's kind of a similarity between. I mean, you see it. Maybe. So this right here is what's on Bugenhagen's arm. So I'll go to the full picture. This part of his cloak, it's on the back of his arm and it's on the front of his arm. And it's this repeat pattern. Now take a look closely, because I got this black and white version to make it clearer, because this is the main layout. You've got 4 circular patterns, 4 circular with 1 central circle. And this repeats again and again and again. Not even just that, on one level right there is 5 circles, 5 worlds, 5 concentric circles. You usually only have the 4, because Kadmon is the original, the center, if you will, and the 4. So even on that premise alone, it fits. But then, if you look at some of the OG, and this is from the Kabbalistic diagrams in the British libraries, the Margolith catalogue, look at that layout. It's the same configuration, 4 and center, 4 and center, with the connecting, the intersecting, because they are interconnected lines, just like we have on Bugenhagen's cloak. Woo! And taking that even a bit further, because of course Bugenhagen's kind of has a cross. It looks more like a cross in the center of a circle. Okay, so I mean, again, that's sort of the 4 and center pattern. This is the world layout in the Kabbalah. But now, you know, I've been talking about the Malkuth, that is actually the main place that we're in, or Sephiroth is in. That's the 49, represented by the 49th day. Kingdom within kingdom, dimensionality within dimensionality, clone 49. Well guys, again, look at the pattern on Bugi's cloak for the main circles. Look at the symbol. Look at it! Ah! It's the circle with the cross. Not only does it configure with the 5 worlds, it configures with the Tree of Life, it even configures with the core concept, the core Sephiroth. The one that Sephiroth is confined to, because again, the Malkuth is the least spiritually pure. It's the furthest from divinity, and that is what Sephiroth is. He doesn't have the other traits of the Sephiroth tree that Cloud does, and it's down here in the Malkuth, which is the 4th world, or technically the 5th. The world of Asaya, this is the one that has full awareness and the full suffering. This is the one with the pernicious evil angels. This is the catalyst phase in the Kabbalah, where humans can go from their spiritually lowest and their furthest, like all of creation, be the furthest from divine source, can in an instant awakening, a flash, go to the linear phase. Instead of the curved paths and patterns towards the peak, if you will, it can just go straight to it. And when I was editing my last FF7 Remake theory, when I had OG FF7, and you see the scene before we fight Sephiroth, and you see Cloud falling towards like a big thing of light, like a big flashy star-shaped light. You know, the white. Again, that's also why the Keter is represented with the color white. The white door. Even when we're fighting Sephiroth, Aerith's light is shining. This is why even in the OG battle with Sephiroth, you know, when Cloud and the gang are like hovering up in the air, and you see Sephiroth pull them in like a vortex of gravity, that's what the Malkuth is described as. When kingdom is condensed down that far, creation is that dense, the Kabbalah describes it like gravity, pulling all things towards it, because desire is at its strongest. Desire to attain is the strongest. It's the strongest in Sephiroth, it's the strongest in the crew, and it pulls everything like a gravity, and then pew, you head up the Tree of Life, and you have your awakening. But Sephiroth can't do that, and that's why he needs Cloud. That's why he needs Cloud. But anyway, what exactly do the Kabbalists draw? Typically, they map the topography of the Godhead, often imagined in terms of 4 gradually emerging worlds and 10 luminous emanations. So again, just to be clear, it's 4 gradually emerging worlds because it's emerging from the 5th, Adam Kadmon, the original concept, which also was the first one to have the 10 Sephiroths. So that's why it's the 5 and the 9 configuration on Bugenhagen's cloak. Emerging worlds known as the Sephiroth. Sephiroth are a characteristic feature of Kabbalistic theosophy and were understood as the divine energetic categories that structured all creation, whether dimensions of divine essence. There it is! You're wondering where Zack is? He's in a dimension of divine essence. And actually, I really like the way Delta Sin replied to the idea of timelines off the back of my theory, which is not to look at it in timelines, but to look at it as infinite energy, an infinite creative life force poured into a vessel, poured into a point in space and time that's minute. And this is similar to, Old Misha's Castle, like time compression. When you pour infinity into a finite space, this is how you see dimensions, this is how you see creation as we know it change and merge into existence. And this is what creates those highly metaphysical worlds and happenings. When you pour infinity into the finite, mad shit happens. And I mean, that also happens in black holes, right? All of that light and all of that matter and material getting sucked into like gravity. So it's like similar to sin, isn't it? Like they use gravity as its main magic as to how sin was made. When it pulls in all of that, that's how when you hit the event horizon or you go into a black hole, you know, you get pulled into like strands. Like if you went past the event horizon, you'll basically be turned to a long piece of spaghetti, spaghettiolus, and you'll stay in there trapped forever. Nothing can escape until it does, because they do say that black holes can also decay and degrade. Basically, you could potentially see through time itself. This is the crazy, ludicrous happenings that even exists in the real world. Like, that's the thing, most of the stuff with like dimensionality or string theory, you know, the double slit experiment, or black holes, most of that defies the laws of like sensible thinking, and most of that plays like a fantasy. Add on a bunch of spiritual, metaphysical, high fantasy concepts on top of that. That's how you get the remake. That's how you get what was going on. And that, yeah, Zach is in a dimension of divine essence, but I think less divine, a Klipov. All modes of divine action. The Sephirot were the object of ongoing Kabbalistic speculation in a manner similar to the DNA double helix. The Sephirot were understood to be meaningfully structured, their order and interconnections forming the cosmological core of this belief. The medieval Kabbalists adopted one of the most useful and versatile schemata, form of diagrammatic representation, in the learned repertoire of the day to represent the Sephirot, choosing the arboreal relating to or resembling a tree in Hebrew. And then, yeah, I just threw in a bunch of Loveless Act 5 stuff, because the version that we get in Crisis Core, again, this being the doorway to the spiritual world, number 5. Obviously, we do see an OG. Sid, he mentions he falls asleep, but then he awakes during the final act and quotes this from the following scene. Do you really have to leave? I promise the people I love are waiting. I don't understand. Not all. Please take care of yourself. Of course, I'll come back to you. Even if you don't promise to wait, I'll return knowing you'll be here. Of course, that's different to the Crisis Core final act, but this is more penned in by Genesis. On the 5th verse that is revealed at the end of the game, the guide explains this is not a true lost verse, but a verse composed by Genesis himself. So I mean, even the one that Sid saw in the play, again, that could just be a theatrical interpretation. It is highly possible, guys, that we could in the remake see the 5th verse of Loveless play out in some way, or come back, or weave itself in. I do really think so. I do believe that on top of all of this like spiritual Kabbalistic lore, I said it in a tweet, there's also this tremendous amount of sort of, yeah, timeline and singularity kind of play, so it does feel like an easy to fall into the idea these are timelines. But there's also an idea that this is all a play, a performance. I mean, this is what the Hindus called, I think it was Samsara, the great play, cosmological play. Like Shakespeare when he said, all the world is a stage and all the people in it are actors. I look at a lot of 7 Remake also being interpreted this way, you know, Jessie being the princess of the play, and the fact that, you know, when Cloud tries to peek behind the curtain, you know, Wedge jumps in and stops. Let's raise the curtain on this final act, Yuffie's. Why was Yuffie's DLC called Intermission? Intermission! Intermission implies a break in a play, in a performance. This with the Loveless and the fact that we're going to be going to the Golden Saucer and seeing the play means that there was an illusion. And this is what makes it even more logical that these things like a sector flip, or the presence door switching, or the cross on a church, one may be in there not. This is all illusion. This is mind games. You know, what you've got to think is if like Terror Corrupt and spiritual corruption, like if Jenova has infected the life stream to such an extent that not only is she able, and with Sephiroth, to reopen the remake. This is why we've got ghosts that are purple, we've got Destiny itself, the Harbinger, purple. What is the core trait of Jenova, besides just the mimic, which is to read someone's soul and read someone's mind and create manifestations? But it's the hallucinations. Jenova can create entire worlds of illusion and mindfuckery. Do. The idea that what we saw in the remake, that there's these mad inconsistencies when the main beings controlling it are cosmic scale, like mind-bending, soul-reading parasites? Come on, guys. Strap on your tinnies. Stop calling everything a design error. And that's the other thing. You've also got to do that with Sephiroth. I don't think anyone seems to give Jenova credit for how powerful this fucking thing is. This thing travels the cosmos, ending worlds. This is a being that not even the Cetra, advanced spiritual civilizations. When I say advanced, I don't mean like technologically advanced, I mean spiritually advanced. They were a high fantasy metaphysical race that obviously, if they're anything like Aerith, they had good nature to them. That's why they were nomadic. That's why they traveled. If even them, they had no chance of fighting against Jenova. She fucked their heads up and they turned into monsters. They murdered each other indiscriminately. They went bananas, berserk. They lost their noodles. So why are we all out here just totally overlooking that Sephiroth has also been injected with this thing from fucking birth and his mind is like been ripped a new one? Everyone's like, nah. You can't say that Sephiroth isn't like completely in control because you take agency away from Sephiroth and his choices. Take agency away from Sephiroth? That motherfucker's never had agency since the day he was born. Wildness. But anyway, finishing off this little theory, guys. I hope any of that made sense. If I described it, I'm going to read some of your comments in a moment. Just finishing off finally here on the number 5. Again, this is Kabbalistic lore. But as this is the 5th occurrence of heavenly repositioning, so why I'm saying there's going to be 5 repositionings. Adam Cadman was repositioning the world, heavenly, the live stream, repositioning it from OG to remake. The second one, remake to Edge of Creation. Yeah, and then coming from Edge of Creation into Rebirth, which I'll just say, even just the word rebirth, reborn, being spiritually reborn. It's exactly what happens in this world. When Bariah collapses and it falls into Yetzirah and the Nitzazots come into the world and reform it, that's why it's called formation, reform. And to see that aligned with rebirth, it makes sense. The 5th occurrence of heavenly repositioning, the number 5 is significant now. The 5-pointed star stands for the number 5, also called the pentad, known as the living principle. The number 5 indicates the action of the active principle on form. 5 symbolizes human suffering and transformation, the turning point in human destiny. Destiny's crossroad in Sector 5. The Kabbalah, the 5th heavenly positioning, and the turning point of human destiny. Come on, where's my schmeckles? Where's my like button? We are done. I was convinced, and then when I read this, I was like, shit, we're there. 5 symbolizes human suffering. This number represents the divine spirit, fundamental to all being, that is crucified on the cross of matter. Crucified on the cross. So again, the Malkuth, the spiritual, and the formless becoming the material and the form. Trapped in the world of materialism, duality. Again, this is also what Sephiroth has been after. That's why he wants to puncture the planet's arsehole with a meteor to turn the live stream into a corporeal vessel within himself and one that he can like physically travel. So it all makes perfect sense, which contains the 4 elements of air, fire, water, and earth. Again, these 4 elements are what corresponds to the 4 core worlds, which I'm not going to go through, I'll just show a chart somewhere. But despite our connection to the senses, man must employ free will in order to bolster self-discipline. And this, I believe, is why Aerith actively had our crew break destiny. Because what was happening? When I was been speaking about like Evangelion or Thanos or Arden or Emmett Selk, Emmett Selk trying to undo the shattering, for example, what is it that makes these villains villains? Well, Brie came up with like a pretty concise answer. She said, well, it's because it's important for a person to have a choice. And that's what happens in Evangelion. It's about choice. It's about free will. The moment, and I mean that stands as a core theme to Final Fantasy, there's that when free will is being taken away, that is within itself an evil doing. Any result that comes out of the suppression of freedom and free will loses any of its value. And this is how I knew Bahamut, way before we knew he was a villain in 15, was a villain. People thought I was crazy saying that Bahamut is actually the big bad villain and it's not Arden, and we actually could see a potential like recontextualization of Arden. I'm not saying a redemption, because people are now saying this about me with Sephiroth. I'm on Twitter talking about the shit. People are like, dude, redemption for Sephiroth? What, he's going to be a good guy? No, that's not what's going to happen. These villains, when they're recontextualized or new context is added, it doesn't redeem what they're doing, but it adds an extra dimensionality to them. And people said I was wrong when I said that this would happen with Arden, because I was like, shit, wait, hold up, that means that the world doesn't have free will in Final Fantasy 15 because Bahamut's controlling it. He must be evil. Must be, because that's what Final Fantasy always plays it as. Lo and behold, that's what happened. And this is what's happening in 7 Remake. Do you think we have free will? Did Cloud have free will? In Remake, any of our characters, did Jesse have free will to go on that mission or not? No, the planet pushed her down the fucking stairs. The planet is violating free will in this world. And obviously we get it is for preservation, but again, preservation does not justify the suppression of free will. That's why Aerith made the choice to break it. Because free will not only is important in Final Fantasy, but even in this Kabbalistic interpretation, that this is what allows the transcendence through suffering. You have to go through it. You can't goddamn avoid it. And yeah, not only is Sephiroth suppressing people's free will by creating a Clypath and Zack and all the other souls that are trapped down there, but the planet's been doing it as well. And this is where you got to really think, who's the villain in 7? Because at the end of the day, the planet, we know, like I said, is capable of genocide, is capable of suppressing free will, and all it really cares about is self-preservation. How is it any different to Sephiroth? And now you've got to question. Aerith says, oh, he'll tell you that he cares about the planet, and Sephiroth says, no, those who are bound to the planet only see shadows. This is a ideological battle that is far deeper and juicier than any of us are really fully given credit, or Square Enix have yet fully shown to us. It is a tee-up, I believe, into really, really juicy insight and section and exploration that we're going to see over the trilogy. I hope, because this is such succulent material. But anyway, finishing that, free will must be employed in order to bolster self-discipline and redirect energies towards the divine. Again, that's how you get out of the Malkuth, the material world. It's when desire reaches its highest peak, and you could say the discipline, the self-discipline is attaining all the different Sephiroth traits. You have to master them to, again, redirect your energies towards the divine. That's why Cloud falls into the light. That's why he has his live stream awakening. And work towards perfect consciousness. The number 5, the number of the pentagram, conceals the most profound arcana. Again, 5 is the number of the fall, as well as the number of the will, our instrument of reintegration. Initiates recognize that the substitution of 5 for 4 is only transitorily disastrous. The substitution of 5 for 4. That's what we see! That's what we see on Stamp's helmet! And it's only a transitory disaster. Rebirth, fucking Stamp has 4 stars. But this Rebirth realm is a transitory one. This is why I think this tees up that after Aerith dies, we're going to see that transition either go to another one, or we're going to see our characters come back to the Clypath of Bariah. And I think what would be cool is, yeah, they're not fully dead because Shinra are loading their bodies into a chopper. And yes, you could say Hojo is going to diddle with them, but why wasn't Cloud in the Rebirth trailer? Why wasn't his body there? Well, because Cloud has Genova cells, and what we see is even with the absence of a soul, or a very, very weak and broken one, the bodies animate themselves. The clones naturally walk to the northern crater. Cloud isn't in that shot in Rebirth because he has Genova cells. And that's why we see Cloud clone in the Rebirth trailer. Because while the other characters' bodies are comatose and Shinra are taking them somewhere, because Hojo can't really do anything with the dead body fully, I know, mate. Actually, there's probably a few things he could do with a dead body, for a creep. I reckon that they're being taken to Junon or somewhere. Hojo will be doing something. Cloud's body is upped and scarpered to the crater. What I think would be really cool, because after the significant disc shift in Final Fantasy VII Remake, we see Tifa wake up on a stretcher with Barrett there. They look out the window, there's a meteor coming down, and that's when you have the execution scene. Tifa almost gets gassed, then goes and slaps the shit out of Scarlet. I think it would be amazing if they wake back up on the line of Baraya, and then we have to deal with the Cloud Clone line. Tohu being a world of chaos, and that showing the Midgar sections tornadoed, and it being 4-star stamped down from 5-star. 5 is the number of the fall. But initiates recognize that the substitution of 5 for 4 is only transitorily disastrous, and that the fallen human submultiple, by wallowing in the mire of matter, learns how to attain a true free personality and become more fully aware of higher planes. Therefore, he rises from his fall again and again, stronger and greater, because evil only replaces good temporarily, and with the explicit purpose of betterment. Yeah. That's not Final Fantasy 7. It fits. We'll be changing ourselves. A new direction, new heights of enlightenment and strength and power for our characters. And now I've just gone and found something about the turning point of human destiny. And that, my friends, is the Secrets of Bugenhagen. Thank you for sitting through that. Did I take a long time? 2 hours and 16 on the stream. Wow! I'm sweating under this peasant-y hat. Bugenhagen's gonna die a different way this time. Wait, Bugenhagen died? Wait. Is James fucking with me?
I think James might be fucking with you.
I linked the video pairs. Is he just up there? Has he just offed himself with a bottle of sherry and painkillers?
Oh, yeah.
Wait, what?
He's in the process of dying, right?
Oh!
Yeah, but he doesn't
Is he?
actually die.
Oh, damn. I can't leave you like this, grandfather. Oh. I don't recall that at all. I've played Final Fantasy 7 so many times.
I don't think he, like, dies here, right?
Yeah, but, I mean, how do you know he's not just having an episode? I see old people do this all the time. They have episodes.
My grandma all the time.
Yeah, I had one with my grandma like 8 months ago. I was like, she's fucked, she's gone. See you, Nan. I was like, bidding her farewell into a live stream. She's like, oh no, just kidding. Gotcha. It's a big world, you must go out and see it. You may even find your life's mate. Bugenhagen, you juicy see. Oh, his hand did just flop though. Wait, his hand fucking flopped.
Did I miss that? Did he actually?
Bugenhagen died!
What? Wait.
It's Bugenhagen. That he's going away again.
What?
He seems like he really liked the airship. You can stay here and just zipped out of here. Oh, because Red's still like a little kid, isn't he?
Yeah.
In his brain, so he's like, told him I'm like going somewhere. Oh! Oh, emotional damage! How have we played 7 this many times?
I've played 7 a lot of times, and I don't remember this being a thing.
Oh! Oh, Bugenhagen's secret! It's just backfired on me. You guys dropped me with a secret. I didn't even realise. The old Todger croaked. Damn, 7. You're such a savage animal.
So what I always thought was just that he was really fucking sick. Like, just really, really sick, and he didn't actually die.
Yeah, he flopped. And I said this in one of my tweets. How is it that 20 years on, no matter how many times I've looked at 7, looked at it again and again, I'm always coming up with a new theory, a new angle to look at it, or even something like this. 7 is the gift that just keeps on giving, because it's just got so many dimensions to it and so many possibilities, and even amongst other theorists who have just also solid ideas. Like, 7, you are magical in this regard. Why? I'm perpetually trapped with the latest qualities of Final Fantasies, because though I think like 15 and 16 are like great games, I just have such big issues with them, because frankly, I'm done theorizing on them like 4 months after. I'm done. Because there's just nowhere near this level of depth. And this is what Final Fantasy needs. That's why I love it. That's why I love it. There we go, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you on the next live stream. Goodbye.